Thank you for joining us on another episode of Popcorn for Breakfast. With me, as always, my co-host, Kirk.
Hello, hello.
And I'm your other co-host, Cam. And we are here tonight. Well, it may not be night wherever you are listening to this or watching this on YouTube, but it's nighttime now on February 2nd, Groundhog Day. And we are reviewing a film for this episode. It's something we haven't gotten to do recently because we had technical difficulties. We wanted to review Banshees last week, Banshees of Inisherin, that is, and we didn't get to do it. So that will be coming soon. But the reason we are reviewing those and not like a film that's new in theaters or anything like that is twofold. One, there's not really anything this week that was in theaters that would be more interesting than the Best Picture nominees. And two, we have 6 more Best Picture nominees to review prior to the Oscars, which is something that Kirk and I are committed to do. That way you guys have our thoughts on all of them, and you can make your own thoughts on all of them, and we can all be square and ready to go. It's daunting, right, but we're going to do it, Kirk.
That's right. We're going to do it all. And because we love you. There's no other reason. If we did not love you, we would just say, forget about it.
That's right. But the real question is, am I going to make Kirk go to the movies to see M. Night Shyamalan's A Knock at the Cabin this weekend? That's... Oh.
Oh, are you?
I don't know. We're going to discuss it. But that's on the table. I mean, we've got a couple big hitters coming up. Well, really just one. Ant-Man. Ant-Man is coming. We're definitely going to have to review that. So that will, when that comes out, that will not be an Oscar Best Picture review week. But we have to kind of pick and choose now. Like, which films do we actually want to review, or do we want to just do a Best Picture nominee that week? So we're going to have to be tactical.
Just an update. I don't know if we've mentioned this before. Cam has seen all 10. He is 10 for 10 of the Best Pictures. Congratulations.
Yes, recently.
Hit that siren there.
What siren?
You know, some sort of cool sound effect.
I don't have any cool sound effects.
How about a ding-a-ding-a?
Oh yeah, I just have that. Is that what you want?
That's what I want.
That's what you really want?
If that's all you have,
that's all I have to give.
All I want. We need to up our sound effect game. This is very clear. This is very clear tonight.
It's obvious.
I called you out just so I could tell you about the sound effect lacking.
Yeah,
that we're having on this.
That's fair.
Show. No,
that's fair.
But you're 10 out of 10. I am now 8 out of 10 as of the other night. So I'm close.
Knocking on the door.
I'm almost there, and you can be too. Check out all of our social medias. You know that we have the list there.
Yep.
If you want to hop on Letterboxd, with Letterboxd, the app, they now have a full list and scope of where you can see things.
Yes.
It's fantastic. It's just fun to be in the know. I was talking to shout out to Mr. Zachary Ranger Rogers, my old mentor, and still is, about film and such. I just think that it was very exciting talking to him about it recently, and we want to talk with you all about it.
Yes.
Like, where can we talk about all of our stuff, Cam?
Anywhere. Social media, Discord. Probably Discord is the best, yeah. We do have a Discord server. You can chat with us there. It's easy to join. There's a link in the description. If you're listening or watching, you can find the link below. So that's a good place to do it. Kirk, which 2 are you missing? Which 2? Women Talking.
Women Talking and Triangle of Sadness. That's my final 2.
Okay. Yeah. Women Talking was my last one because, man, that's a slippery little bugger. You got to catch it. It pops up and you got to grab it when it's there. So that was the one. I'm recently 10 for 10 because I was able to catch that last week. I had to take a half day of work to do so because the show times were so wonky. I was like, man, this is crazy, but we're getting there, and we're going to review them all on here, starting with tonight's review, which will be Tar. And yes, that's how it's pronounced, with the accent over the A. It's an ungoogleable film. Actually, Google's smart enough to figure it out, but some of these apps, Kirk, like Just Watch and Letterboxd for a while, both of them for a while, if you just typed in Tar, T-A-R, on your phone, it wouldn't find it. It would find other things. And I was so enraged by that, unimaginably angry at it, until they all kind of corrected their search functionality to make it work. So now it's not as hard.
Which, how rude. How rude of the creators of this film to do such a thing, where all of these engineers had to suddenly come together and have an extra task. Like they're not busy putting your real feature request through.
Yes.
They've got to stop work and put the accent over the A. I mean, come on.
Well, yes, and normally I would agree. We often talk about films that have horrible titles when it comes to marketing, like big long titles or titles with a colon and then a subtitle that's really long or whatever. This is a different case because it's a short title, but it was like unsearchable because of the accent over the A in some places. But I have, as much as I am usually against this sort of thing, when you see the movie, you understand why it has to be called that. Well, maybe we'll get into it during this review, but there was a reason for it. There is a reason. We could talk about it if you want to, but there is definitely a reason. But yeah, it's still annoying. I guarantee there were many months of battles between team marketing and team Todd Field, the director, who were like, no, we will call it Tar and nothing else. And the marketing team was so mad. Yes. But here we are, and we're reviewing it with that as the title. So Kirk, this one's a doozy. It's we're going to get into it. And as a reminder, we're going to be doing spoiler full reviews. That's how most of our reviews are, unless otherwise stated. But that is a somewhat recent change. And the reason we're doing that is we want you guys to watch these films, particularly for the best pictures, and then you can hear a deeper analysis on these, not just surface level, non-spoilery stuff. There are times for that, but when you're talking about best picture nominees, we want to get into the nitty gritty. So that's what we're going to do.
We want to do the gritty while we're getting in the nitty gritty.
That's right, Kirk. Maybe we will.
I need to learn how to do the gritty.
We got a long way to go. It could get weird. We don't know. But we're going to start, as we always do, with a brief synopsis of the film to kind of, set the table and get ready to jump into it. So I will provide that synopsis. It'll be brief. Basically, Lydia Tarr is a fictional character, even though the film is actually sort of designed and styled like a biopic. It is a fictional character. She is one of the most successful, if not the most successful, composers in the world. She is the resident composer at the Berlin Philharmonic Orchestra, which is one of the most prestigious orchestras in the entire world. And she has risen to immense acclaim. She's got a book. She's doing all of these live recordings and making, having tons of career success. But then some details about her personal life and her personal life overlapping with her work life and some toxic traits and characteristics and activities that she is dealing in start to come to surface. And as you would probably guess, and as you probably know if you've seen the film, the wheels start to fall off, and she starts to take a meteoric descent into, from the top of the mountain all the way down to the bottom, where she has to then, as we see her at the end of the movie, trying to crawl her way back out of the pits of career despair. So that is Tar. This movie stars Cate Blanchett. It's really her movie, This movie is called Tar. It's about the main character, Lydia Tarr, and everything that we're never without her. Everything that we see, everything that happens is about this character. We are literally never away from her in this film. So it's interesting from that respect. Right. Anything I missed before we jump into it, Kirk?
No, that is everything.
All righty.
Tar.
Tar on Tar, which is the name of her the name of her book, her memoir, which I love. Let's get into it. Let's talk about the acting performances. And when we say, and the Oscar goes to this time, I'm going to go ahead and say that this person is actually going to win an Oscar for this role. It's not just one of our little fake Oscars. I think Cate Blanchett, our star, leading lady in this film, is 1,000% deserving of an Oscar for this performance. She is nominated for an Academy Award for this performance. Actually, it's worth noting this film was nominated for 6 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Actress in a leading role, Best Directing by Todd Field, Best Film Editing, Cinematography, and Original Screenplay. So Cate Blanchett is the lone acting nominee, and that's sort of the nature of the film, but she turns in an unbelievable performance. It is, I mean, we've seen Cate Blanchett do amazing things. She has been at the top of her game for a very long time. She's one of the best to do it, without doubt. I mean, currently, certainly one of the best that's doing it right now. And this performance is the performance of a lifetime for her. This character that she creates is layered like nobody's business. And part of that is that it's a really well-written movie, but the other part of it is that Cate Blanchett is so detail-oriented in her approach and so technically excellent. I mean, she just does not miss a single beat. There's so much intentionality in everything that she's doing, the way she interacts with people. Every word that falls out of her mouth is doing so with intention. She's delivering each line with a specific inflection to give us a glimpse of what's going on in her head, because this movie is really good at following one of the main rules of film, which is show, not tell. And so a lot of times what's happening, we're not being told explicitly. We're not being told exactly what's happening, exactly what she's thinking, exactly what is going on. We're just being dropped into the middle of the scene, and we have to kind of get our bearings. And so when that's going on, the way that she delivers lines becomes so important, because it's our only window into her mind, and it's our only way of interpreting this character. And Cate Blanchett certainly knew that, acted that way, did a phenomenal job. I was blown away by this performance. I didn't know what to expect going in, and it's rare that like I look at any acting Academy Award category and say this is a flat out runaway. But I mean, personally, if I was picking the award, as fantastic as all the other women nominated were, including Michelle Yeoh, whose performance in Everything Everywhere was marvelous, I think it has to go to Cate Blanchett. I would be shocked if it didn't. So Cate Blanchett, fantastic work, loved it.
We are going to have a good time today, folks.
Oh boy.
I must tell you, I have very indifferent feelings about this movie.
Really?
Yes, very, 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 very. Hold on, put us back up. Put us both back up real quick. I want to see your face for a second, Cam.
Sure.
I must tell you that my Oscar is going to Mark Strong's wig throughout this film.
Oh, wow. So not indifferent feelings. You hated this movie. That wig is working overtime, though. Let's be honest.
I just wanted to drop the wig before we do anything else, because it is the most glaring piece of artistic missteps
It's shocking.
in this film.
It is shocking.
It is hideous. It is stringy. It is just awful. It's this weird reddish brown, and it dangles from his face almost like old Greg, the one-hit wonder YouTube hit. I cannot fathom why that wig happened in this film. Can you?
Well, Mark Strong usually rocks a shaved head, and it's a great look for him. So I was definitely taken aback by it, I would say.
I was very upset. I was very upset by this. That's not why we're going to have problems, but I do want to tell you my Oscar goes to, but I could not go any farther without expressing that to our listeners. The Oscar goes to, for me, also Miss Cate Blanchett. I think that this role, yes, it was written for her. However, it is not her best work. I'll tell you that. I've been skeptical of Miss Cate Blanchett for a long time. I think she's a little overrated, and I stand by that. I think I took it back when we saw, what was the film with Bradley Cooper and her? Oh, something about a nightmare. Nightmare Alley, where I thought she was really, really working hard, and she was lean. I was leaning into her. I was feeling her. And then, of course, I finally got around to watching Martin Scorsese's The Aviator, in which she does an incredible job. This one, she hits all the beats. This could be her Iron Lady, aka Meryl Streep's win, one of her recent wins. This is really what it feels like, because the movie itself, not great, but does everything bend to her whim and her will, and just either fade or melt into her whenever necessary. Yes, the answer is yes. Which there's so much to talk about the production value to that a little bit later, but everything was incorporated and amplified by the artistic side of this. And she was ready to play the role. She had all these insane references that you believed her. Like every sentence out of her mouth, she was name dropping, which is some of the greatness of this character, is that she loves to be right. She loves to be the smartest in the room. She fought to be there. And on the other side of that, she is this very malicious person because she has had to fight and claw and climb and scratch her way to where she wanted to be. But the problem is she never stopped to enjoy all of it. So she's a very bitter person with very, very dark skeletons in her closet. That's what makes it so nice, because whenever she is trying to be baited into something, she will start all of a sudden name drop and talk about things from her intelligence and her craft. And then when she gets that ripped out of her, she just screams or just snarls at whoever's with her, or sometimes just walks away. And there's some cool power that Cate Blanchett kind of weaves in between, like a snake, if you will. It's very snake-like, her entire character, until there are times when there is literally egg on her face, or in this particular case of the movie, blood, when she smashes her face into the concrete while pursuing something she shouldn't. It's very, very fascinating to watch. However, not her best performance.
All right. I like it. Let's get frisky. Let's turn up the heat here a little bit. Let's widen the divide. What other analogies or metaphors can I use to describe what's happening? I don't know. I could go.
Let's part the Red Sea.
Let's go. I like it. Let's talk about Scene Stealer. This supporting cast, it featured a lot of different characters, but again, this is like the Cate Blanchett show, so it's really difficult to choose. But for me, there was one person who really stuck out. Young actress by the name of Noémie Merlan, who is a French actor. She was in Portrait of a Lady on Fire, if you guys are familiar with that film. Probably her most famous work, and one that has grown to extreme critical acclaim in recent years. I think even, popping up in many like top 200, top 100 lists of all time. And that movie's only from 2017. So recommend you seeing it. But she plays Francesca, who is the assistant and sort of lady in waiting as it relates to being the next great female conductor. She's sort of a mentee of Lydia Tarr's. She's also their relationship is complex, and you get the sense that there has been something physical going on there in the past, certainly something emotional going on between the two of them, with regard to the way that Lydia Tarr kind of goes about her business. She kind of has these really unethical, toxic kind of relationships with everyone around her, but certainly most of all the female people in her life. And so I would say that Francesca is sort of the ultimate victim, one of the main victims of Lydia Tarr's wrath in this film. And that's what I like about her performance, is how well she conveys the complexity of being on the receiving end of a manipulative relationship like this one is, where she's being gaslighted and being manipulated and being abused, actually emotionally, not physically that we see, but certainly emotionally. And she's going through a lot, and I think that Noémie really takes a thoughtful approach with how she performs this role, because I think she knows that so many people are in this position, and I think that she knows that she wanted to convey it in a way that's accurate. She is one of the main figures to convey the monstrosity that is Lydia Tarr. We get to look into Francesca's eyes at multiple times during this film, as Lydia Tarr is sort of on the other side of the camera talking to her, and that is our chance to see the impact, the actual physical impact of this relationship on someone, the emotional toll that it has on them. And she does a beautiful job conveying that with very few words and just really beautiful, physical acting and just kind of responding to the scene as it goes on. She does a great job at the scene where Lydia is kind of telling her that she's not going to be chosen for I forget what they call it, assistant director or assistant conductor role. The way that all we're seeing in the scene is her physical reaction to this as Lydia delivers it from the other side of the camera. And basically all you see, she doesn't say anything. Her eyes just kind of move and she like makes a tisk or a scoff at some point, but she tells you so much about everything there. She gives us such a beautiful glimpse into their horrific relationship and why it's so evil and sinister, and it's really well done. So I have to give my props once again to Noémie Merlant. I apologize if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. I have no idea. I'm trying my hardest.
That's exactly right. I called her while you started, and she said that's exactly how you pronounce it.
Phew,
so good job.
That's a relief.
She's very impressed. She wants to come on the show.
Perfect. All right, Kirk. Who's your scene stealer?
My scene stealer goes to Miss Nina Hoss.
Good choice.
This is the spouse of Lydia Tarr. She holds down the fort. She is, what is she? She's a violinist.
First violinist,
First chair violinist, of course, because she is, in good with the with the conductor. And I really love the mirror that she holds up to Lydia. And at times, it's so powerful to see the juxtaposition there, to see that Nina, who plays Sharon in the movie, it's incredible to see how stable she is and how far Lydia has gone. To yes, this is the home that they share together. There's the daughter, of course, and then Lydia will disappear into the apartment, and we're just kind of accept the apartment early on, and then finally, like 3/4 of the way through, Sharon is like, yeah, that apartment that you won't let go of. Then since we found each other and moved in together and so on. And so there are all these things that Sharon is harboring, and it's just very controlled. She knows what she has is precious. She knows what she has is fragile. And she also knows that she only has a poker face to an extent. She can pick up when things are not going right. She tries to redirect them to make sure they don't go into total calamity. And most of the time, she is successful. However, of course, the events of this film, we know that she cannot completely control Lydia, as no one can control Lydia. And as Lydia finds out, not even Lydia can control Lydia. It's a very wonderful line that's drawn to connect them. It's a very fascinating watch to see her kind of finally near the end of this kind of let her go, to say, I'm not going to put up with this anymore. We only get to see a glimpse of that before Lydia just really steamrolls through the end of this film. So I'd really love to see where she is, where Sharon is at the end of this, maybe in a post-credit scene or a deleted scene. It'd be very fascinating to see. I know that doesn't meet with the whole theme of the film and perspective of the film of following Lydia, but I really wonder and want Sharon to be doing well, and hopefully we can find that out. Sometimes they do postmortems with directors. That'd be really cool to see. But she caught my eye. She was wonderful.
Nice. I like that pick. I thought Nina Hoss did a great job in this film as well. So glad she's getting some flowers here. All right, let's talk about Todd Field's movie. He's nominated for Best Director. And does he also get the writing credit on this one?
Oh, let's see.
Yes, he's also the writer. So screenwriting and directing for Mr.
Wow.
Todd Field. So very well acclaimed and nominated in multiple categories, which is very impressive. But let's talk about this picture, and let's talk about what works, what doesn't work, and let's start with what works. We're going to get into Showstopper, the best part of the film in our opinion. For me, it's really the whole sort of essence of the film, which is the character study. I love the Lydia Tarr character study in this film, and I love it because I think sort of a trend in recent films that I've kind of noticed is that creating really complex characters, like truly complex characters who aren't all one thing or all another thing. They're not one dimensional. They have layers. They're a real, they could be a real person. Kind of falls to the wayside in favor of doing something heavily thematic or stylish to kind of drive home the point of the movie with one-dimensional characters. That's kind of how I feel like a lot of recent films are, is that you see a lot more people trying to get their impact through with, really stylish or really heavy thematic work rather than an actual deep character. This movie does both, and I think that Lydia Tarr's character is fascinating because the movie doesn't really give us an opinion on this whole thing. It just kind of tells us who she is and that this person could be real and probably is real in many different fields across the world right now and has existed and will continue to exist. But it doesn't ask us to decide how they should be dealt with. It doesn't ask us to do anything other than observe and make our own opinion. And I like that because Lydia Tarr is an interesting, really, really interesting character because it's like one of those things where, one of those sequin pillows where like you brush it one way and then you brush it the other way and it has a design on one end. You can look at it from different perspectives and sometimes you see her interacting with her, daughter, Petra, or interacting with, Andrus, the former conductor who kind of gave way to her, and you go, this is a person who has a compassionate side. This is a person who can really connect with people. But then you realize that it's only people who pose her no threat. They don't pose any threat to her power. They don't pose any threat to, or they don't offer her really any. She doesn't need to get anything from them. They're just there. But the people who do fall into that category of they're threatening to her position of power, they have something that she wants or needs. Those people see the other Lydia Tarr, which is someone who is, pretty shockingly vile and cruel, very cruel and manipulative. Almost like unbelievably cruel, like goes out of her way to be cruel to people and to prove that she is just so intelligent and deserves to be there more than anyone else. And I really like that. I think that this character, she lacks self-awareness, which I love. I love that part of it because it creates this thing where she's being faced with sort of the reality of the situation when Krista Taylor dies by suicide, most likely partially due to the fact that, or maybe entirely due to the fact that Lydia Tarr has kind of assisted in blackballing her in the industry. She can't get a job. She can't work in orchestra. She basically can't do music professionally because of Lydia Tarr. And when she's faced with that reality, she really tries to justify a lot of things. She manufactures new opinions and viewpoints and facts, and she's really just trying to stay away from it, but she's constantly haunted by her subconscious, and her subconscious knows what's going on, but she won't let it surface to the conscious. She won't let herself become aware of it. And I love to watch that battle kind of go on throughout this movie, and even to the very end where now she's at the very bottom of it, and you can just see that she still feels like she deserves something. She deserves to be there. There are so many great scenes where you can see this struggle going on. I think the big scene that everybody will probably point out is the scene where she's at the Juilliard class. I think isn't it Juilliard? Yeah, she's doing the Juilliard master class, and she has it out with that kid, and you're like, man, why is she going after this kid? But then you realize that what he is saying. She can't blow it off because if it's true and if more people feel that way, then it's a threat to her. And it's the most paramount threat that there is to someone like her, that someone could be viewed for things outside of their music. So she cannot allow it. She has to squash it, dismiss it, destroy it. And she does by driving him out of the class, but it ultimately catches up with her at the end. So it's just really, really good character work that I love. And it's been a while since I've seen an actual character study like this that's this layered in quite some time. So I really appreciated that.
I love that you mentioned the Juilliard class because that's part of my showstopper. I love it.
Nice.
I love the theme and the struggle of power. Just like Cam mentioned it, who can she gain things from? Who is worth anything to her? Who poses no threat to her? The biggest power play that's in here for me, because there's no contest throughout the rest of any room she steps into. Even with the celloist, she is so far removed in her mind of thinking of any kind of competition with Lydia or things that she doesn't need anything from Lydia, but Lydia needs her. And so she hunts her, she pursues her. But in that Juilliard scene, it's so incredible. We get this full 360, literally with the camera work, this full 360 of when she is in control, when she is facing the students versus when she is facing the stage, and when she brings that student up onto the stage and he just pokes and prods and is so firm in his foundation in a non-malicious way that she cannot come to terms with it, she cannot accept it, and she cannot step off of it. She cannot lose in her mind. She will not lose to this kid who is stepped into her arena. I love the power play there. I love that they brought it back and had it have a bigger meaning at the end. Part of the mountain of reasons to cancel her, which only feeds more into his power and takes away from hers. So the theme and the mantra of power going into this movie, and as you see it play out and you see her win and cheat and lie and scrape and claw, and then you see that scene take it away from her. Oh, it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
Nice. Yeah, it is. It's really interesting, and it's really what this movie is. It's again, like it's asking a question. It's saying this is how power is dealt with in the modern world. This is how people like this could be dealt with. How do you feel about that? It's asking you to introspect and say, how do you feel about that? Is it fair? Is it unfair? Too harsh? Not harsh enough? What do you think? And that is interesting. It's an interesting thought exercise that Todd Field takes us on here. So I agree with you. I think that's a strong, rich theme there. Nice work. Okay, let's talk about the other side. Director's shoes. I can't wait to hear Kirk's. He's already primed us for it. He's ready to sink his teeth into that. Mine's pretty simple. I think that with this movie focusing on such a real world topic, the idea that, this idea of like, let's call it cancel culture or cancellation, the fact that people who abuse power have sort of immediate and somewhat permanent consequences for that in the modern age. The fact that that's sort of what we're looking at here, I thought the choice to use a fictional character was an odd one. And I could see how you don't want to use a real character because you don't want that person like to rebuff your film or call it inauthentic or really just like call its credibility or authenticity into question. So I do get that portion of it. But what I think is when you're tackling a real world theme that is so prevalent right now, and it's something that we're all kind of seeing play out and everybody has an opinion on, absolutely everybody. And it's complex. It kind of renders it inert whenever you find out that this is a fictional character. And so whether that be before you go into the movie or at the end. I just think that whenever somebody looks up, is Lydia Tarr, what happened to Lydia Tarr, whatever, and figures out that she's not a real person, you're like, okay, well then what was all that for? Like, why are we examining this fake person through a film that is clearly stylized as a biopic? Like, why was that the creative choice that was made? And I do think it is for the reasons that I mentioned. I think that Todd Field doesn't want anything from the real world obscuring the analysis that he feels is important and the examination that needs to go underway in this movie. And I get that, but I do feel like it hurts the effectiveness of it, particularly to a mass audience. So I think that, and then my other one is sort of the density of the film, because it is extremely dense. It's 2 hours and 36 minutes long of essentially just dialogue. It's really, it's got a lot to it. And some of the scenes that are there, you could argue, don't work as hard for the movie as they think that they do. Like, I think a lot of the scenes where Lydia is sort of being haunted night after night after night, after a while, that just kind of doesn't work as hard for the film or for the themes as it did. And there are some of those characters or interactions that I think could have been trimmed down without impacting the effect of the movie, and actually improving the effect of the movie because it would be more concise and succinct. So I think that that's a choice that could have been made. I guarantee Todd Field would disagree with me on that one. And I in a perfect world, I would love to hear, why the choices were made. But I think the choice to make this about a fictional character, or really it can be about a fictional character, but to style it in this way so that it feels so much like a biopic, is hurtful to the overall impact of it. And then also the density of the subject matter and the film itself are my two director shoes.
Excellent. My first one, I teased it earlier. Mark Strong's wig. Let's talk about it again.
Here we go. I'm ready for this.
It's just so...
It's bad. It's
so
bad.
Ugly. When you have the rest of this piece is so spot on. Like, everything makes sense. Nothing stands out as wrong. The clothes, the costumes, the atmosphere, the color tones, the palette. There's nothing that is wrong with the look of this movie except for Mark Strong's wig. Ladies and gentlemen, if you never knew he was bald, you would know that he has the ugliest hairpiece you've ever seen in your life. That's all for my first one of my many director's shoes.
That's fair. That's a fair one.
That one that's the top. That lost a full 8 points on this movie.
Whoa!
I exaggerate. This movie is pretentious. It is very, very in love with itself. It's almost too aware that the elevated speech between Lydia and Aldous, Sebastian, and all of the other musicians with this chip on their shoulder, this world, this prestige language, these name drops that they continue to have. It's very pretentious. It drives me a little insane. It feeds the character well. However, there are a lot of scenes where we aren't getting much of Lydia's motive, of Lydia's intent, even though we kind of get it. There's no momentum with her in these long scenes where they're just discussing the past and this composer and this artist and comparing people that you do not know who they are. And there is some rhythms there. There are some rhythms there that are nice to hear, to learn the character a little more, but it's done over and over and over and over again. It's hard. It's very hard to pay attention. And then what happens is interwoven into all of those very, very subtly is mixed in with the subplots. And the subplots are arguably stronger than the main plot of Power, the main plot of let's watch this person and see what happens through all of these events in her life, where the biggest subplot that turns out to be a driving force in here of Mark Strong and his ugly wig dethroning Lydia, the worst thing that could happen to her, and her attacking him in a surprise. It just, the climax of that, it should have been bigger. And it felt like it thought it was big enough. But because all of that tension between her and this other composer possibly taking her place, a lesser composer, someone who very clearly is not of her intelligence and probably shouldn't be conducting that orchestra, her orchestra. So the burn is there, but the ride is not there. And we can't follow it quite right. So when we get to that moment where she's breathing heavily on stage and they start that orchestra and the horn is off stage that she planned, that she selected, and she rushes the stage, it's like, oh, okay. Because we didn't get enough information. It's fine to not beat your audience over the head, but when you hide things or trap them into hanging on every one of those words that aren't as important, it's a little angersome. That's not even a word. It's a little frustrating. So my director's shoes to Mr. Todd Field is to let it breathe a little bit. Let it be a little bit more relatable in pieces, so that those little pieces intermixed with the character development dialogue can be picked up and carried through.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are fair notes, and I hate when a film is pretentious. I think that this, because it affects the accessibility of the film, and I could go on for hours on that. So I get you choosing that. I think part of it is a factor of the world he's chosen to examine, which is an extreme,
Yes.
it's high art. So, and maybe part of that is to call film under examination as well, because sometimes this, people who make films, people who critique films, etc., it gets a little pretentious, and it gets a lot of who's the smartest person in the room and things like that. So, yeah, I agree with a lot of that. I think that makes sense.
And maybe it's me. Maybe I'm not smart enough for this movie, Cam.
No. I totally agree. There are a lot of times where you're like, okay, who is this person? Whatever. I mean, for God's sake, the whole one of the major themes is the fact that I think probably the main point where they explain the thesis of the film, or one of the kind of main points of the film, is when she's talking to Andrus, and she says, when I'm trying to write, he says, how's the writing going? And she says, when I'm trying to write, I hear something, I get excited about it. I get excited about it, but then I try to do it, and it's pastiche, which I had to Google, right? Because nobody uses that word, which just means that it's, basically a copy of another artistic work. I would say, derivative. That's probably the word that I would use, that it's derivative of something else. And Andrus quickly quips back with, it's all pastiche. And that's the whole thing. And she says, I find that really depressing. He kind of gives this example of where Beethoven copied Mozart, or the other way around, or something like that. And she goes, I find that very depressing, because what she's not allowing herself to see is that she's copied Mahler. She's literally recording his whole series of symphonies, and she's trying to be him. She changed her name to be Lydia Tarr because she wanted it to sound more like one of these, Gustav Mahler, Ludwig van Beethoven, one of these really successful people. And then she's mimicking his life because he was a terror. And nobody knows that going in, unless you've taken film history or film appreciation, whatever. Everybody's Googling, who the heck is Gustav Mahler? What's his deal? Because even if you know his music, you don't know that he was a jerk. And that's one of the main points of the movie, is you kind of have to know that he was a jerk in order for that theme to hit home. So you're not, do not call yourself too dumb for this movie. Nobody should. It is dense. I think it is, that's a fair critique. It's a really fair critique for sure.
Well, perfect.
I love it. All right, Kirk, let's do final thoughts and scores. This is a toughie for sure. And it does sound like Kirk and I will be on different ends of the spectrum with this one. I think ultimately for me, this movie technically is really well done. I think I have some problems with the fact that it's, I mean, I've stated my problems, so I'm not really going to rehash it, but basically that it's a little bit too self-indulgent and that it's it shouldn't be styled the way that it is, but the way that it's made is lovely. I don't think it should have been nominated for cinematography, but it was, and you can't super argue with it because it is really well shot. It's really well edited, and it's awesome. I think it's really it's stylish. It looks good. The visual aesthetic is sharp. They're doing a lot of visual storytelling with like having the camera follow her around, and like as Kirk pointed out, the perspective being a huge part of the storytelling in the movie. So it's really well done. And I love the character study and everything that's going on. Like I said in my showstopper, as well as the performance, I found it really interesting and for the most part, a really good time. I think it gets a little stodgy and it gets a little, you feel like it's a little overly long by the end because some of the things that they choose to do, again, are a little bit self-indulgent. But overall, I'm a fan of what has come together. I think the theming is sharp. I think it's well done. I think that, it's super relevant and it's not really been examined in this way before with the knowledge of what we know now about how things are unfolding today with cancel culture and things like that. So it is interesting from that perspective. So I give it a lot of credit for all of those things. So for me, I don't think it deserves to be Best Picture out of our 10 nominees. But I do think it deserved to be nominated out of the films that we saw this year for 2022. And I'm giving it 8.3 out of 10 kernels.
Mine will not be that score.
Oh, I know. I'm excited. I'm excited about it, though.
Do you hear that?
Clicking the baton? Yeah, I heard it.
Prepare yourselves.
Is that a wand?
It's a Harry Potter wand.
Love it. That's what I thought.
I must say that I would not watch this movie again. I do not think it should have been nominated for Best Picture. There are some others out there that had a better chance at the title if nominated, that were not given their day in the sun. So while the production value is fantastic, I do not think the script is strong enough. I do not think the cinematography leads itself to be interesting enough, though it looks good. It's not anything we haven't seen before in some other sort of realm of film. I will never forgive Mark Strong's wig. I think that Cate Blanchett will probably win the Oscar based on just purely being able to fit into a role exactly as it is supposed to be played. Where Michelle Yeoh might take over the other nominee, one of the other nominees in this category for Everything Everywhere All at Once, where she might be able to take over is because how unique that her role was and fitting into every different type of universe that she slides into. Back to Tar. Cate Blanchett, all the creative staff, it's not enough for me to say that this is something I like to watch, and it's going to go down for me as a 5.8 out of 10 kernels today.
Nice. So you would not have it nominated for Best Picture. I heard that.
Correct.
What's taking its spot, Kirk? What's taking its spot? And do you have it? Do you have it? Now, I don't want to make you tip your hand too much, so if this is too invasive, let me know. But would you put it 10th or 8th out of the 8 that you have seen so far?
Oh, good question. Easily.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Without a question.
Okay.
Without a question. It's the lowest on the totem pole for me.
Got you. So what takes its place then?
What other film comes
now you
into
only
it?
have to now you only have to pick one because you said that it was the bottom. I was going to make you pick as many replacements as there were, but I do want to know. Because I certainly have films that I wish were not nominated for Best Picture, and I have films in mind that I would swap it out with, but I want to know, like, what's your biggest one that you would swap in?
Oh gosh, this is not fair. This is not fair at all. I don't know the answer.
Okay, that's fair. Problem. That is a fair answer.
I would say, based on recency bias, I just watched She Said, based on the Weinstein, news story, news break and everything.
Yeah.
That has a very spotlight feel. Yeah. That has just like a news breaking feel that we're familiar with. And it was very compelling. I would say that is a more powerful film than Tar. And I just don't know.
And a lot of people would agree with you on that, for what it's worth. I mean,
excellent.
Like, for sure.
I don't know that you can be in the top 10 Best Picture films and not make all of your audience, like, collectively feel something. Mm-hmm. I didn't really feel anything while I watched this film because it is a cold film, because Lydia Tarr is a cold person and she's doing cold things to people left and right. So it's very difficult for me to say yes to have a movie that doesn't make you enact some emotion while you're watching it.
Yep. Yeah, I think that this potentially is a film that will not resonate with everybody and will not hit home in the same way for people. I think we've certainly seen films like that nominated in the past, but it's always controversial. But I appreciate the discourse. I like having difference of opinion. So this is exciting, and it was a good discussion about the film Tar, one of our 10 Best Picture nominees. So now we are 5 out of 10, Kirk. We got 5 more to go, and we'll start knocking them out over the next few weeks. And those 5 are Banshees of Inisherin. Why am I doing this to myself? I'm not going to. But I do want people to know.
We got it. The Fabelmans.
Women Talking. Triangle of Sadness. And hold on. It's coming. I can feel it.
Venom 3?
Yes. No. I can feel it. What is it, Kirk?
I have to pull the list up.
Oh, All Quiet. All Quiet on the Western Front.
All Quiet on the Western Front. That's right.
So we'll get there. We've got 5 left, and we're going to start chipping away at it. But hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Hopefully you enjoyed Tar, or maybe you didn't. And as we have just shown, either way, totally fine. Let us know your thoughts, preferably on Discord. We'd love to have more people in that community to discuss films with us. We've got some people in there who chatted up with us, and we really enjoy it. We want to talk movies all day long. We really do. It's a sickness is what it is. But
don't let our bosses know.
Yeah, don't let anybody know. But it's my favorite thing, and one of Kirk's favorite things for sure, I would say. So join us there, and we can chat it up. But until next time, we will leave you with the sounds of Rhetoric, the band that created our original music, as well as Kirk drops his magic wand baton. We want to give a special thanks to our executive producer, Ryan Spriggs, and we will see you guys next week.
Talk to you then.